What I want in my life is to be willing to be dazzled, to cast aside the weight of facts. I want to believe I am looking into the white fire of a great mystery. I want to believe that the imperfections are nothing, that the light is everything, that it is more than the sum of each flawed blossom, rising and fading. And I do. I want to believe I am looking into the white fire of a great mystery. Words of Mary Oliver. Good morning. It's great to see you all. I understand some people might not see me or see us online, but however you are, whether you're here in person or whether you're joining us electronically, I'm grateful for your presence here, especially on what is a particularly special service on a couple of occasions, the presence of our National EC, as well as it being our own annual general meeting, friends and colleagues from throughout the district. So it's absolutely fantastic that you've been able to join us today. I often start our services by mentioning that there's many reasons we might be here. We could be filled with joy and celebration, and we want to sort of share that with one another. We might also be coming with sorrow in our hearts, some sadness that we have to face, and we just need a space to do that in. We might be coming to hear a few words of wisdom, either intellectual or edifying. Maybe, though, we've come just simply to connect with one another or to rest with the divine. Whatever it is that's brought you into this space, I hope you'll find it, and I know that you'll find a warm community. And you'll very hopefully, and I'm sure by our prelude, have been dazzled with, as those words of Mary Oliver bring us back. Let us turn a bit further into worship with these words of the Indian writer and feminist activist Arundhati Roy. Another world is not only possible, she is on her way. On a quiet day, I can hear her breathing. And so let us sing our first hymn, Breathe on Me, Breath of God, Fill Me with Life Anew. Let us come together into a time of prayer. This is followed by our covenant, which is printed in your order of worship and will appear online. But first, these words. Our meeting is a blessed convergence amongst all the chance and challenge that time has brought, not only in the past year, but in years past. That we should meet together here now is, well, a blessed convergence.
Envelop us in holy love, whose downy embrace covers our wounds. Hold us tight against the storms that rage past, threatening to dismantle systems of assurances and assumptions. And if they do, and if they need to, protect us long enough for the sun to return, revealing that, although what we considered solid was not, the beauty of the earth remains. The compassion of the people remain, and hope remains. If we give up green pastures for arid deserts, and this cloak becomes unnecessary, let us find clothing that suits our environment, and recognize the earth as sacred. Deserts are needed just as much as the verdant field. Winter is needed just as much as spring. Though, of course, we welcome the spring and the greenery and the rebirth of life around us. May we celebrate when it is within us. May we be patient when it is around us. May we take hold of all who know not its presence, for whom the earth lays ashen, bleak, devoid of joy. May we be their comfort in times of distress, and may we be comforted in our own times. Amen. And please read with me our covenant. We gather here in sacred fellowship to witness the fullness of our lives and all life, to hold and be held, tell stories and listen, to be renewed and renew the world. We speak with care and patience. We act with gentleness and compassion. We forgive each other and ourselves. In faith that we build beloved community, we renew our covenant today. Amen. For those unfamiliar with those words, they were developed by the congregation a number of years ago, and it seems to be sort of quite a significant statement for us. As we don't have, of course, a statement of belief and statement of theological underpinning, we want to make sure that there is some binding force for us, some statement of behavior and love for one another, and we hopefully find those words edifying. So our story today is The Friendship Bench by Wendy Medore and Daniel Agenius. And I'm going out on a limb here, but I need a volunteer chance. Not everyone, raise your hands at once. It's a very gentle roll. There's very little, I assure you. So the camera's not working, so you don't have to worry about being present. Thank you, Paul. So all I need you to do at the point is you just have to sit there. You don't have to worry until the next step. So the friendship bench. And I might just lower this a touch. Not that much though. Okay. And funnily enough, Paul, this is a story about a little girl named Tilly. Tilly and Shadow had found a new home by the splash and the curl of the sea. When Tilly threw a ball, Shadow chased it. You can see Shadow chasing after that ball. When Tilly did a cartwheel, Shadow barked. And when Tilly patted Shadow's head, Shadow always wagged his tail. Shadow sounds like a very good dog for Tilly. "Can Shadow come to my new school with me?" asked Tilly. "No," said Mummy, "dogs have to stay outside." "Can I stay outside too?" Mummy gave Tilly a cuddle. "We'll be back soon," she said. And inside just wasn't the same without Shadow. You can see it looks like they're having some fun. They're painting. And if you look really closely, you can see one of those paintings looks suspiciously like Shadow. I wonder who painted that. So inside just wasn't the same without Shadow. And outside, Tilly had to play on her own. It's a new school. She might not know anyone else. "Why don't you try the friendship bench?" asked the teacher.
children find new friends to play with there. But the friendship bench was right at the other end of the playground. And by the time that Tilly got there, somebody was already on it. So Tilly went back to her teacher. "Did you try the friendship bench?" asked the teacher. "I couldn't," said Tilly. "It was busy." The teacher smiled. "Well, go and try again." So Tilly tried again. But the little boy was still there. The little boy looked up at the sky. Tilly looked at her shoes. Little boy looked at a seagull. Tilly looked at the grass. "It isn't working," said Tilly.
"Maybe it's broken,"
suggested the little boy.
"I've been sitting on it for ages."
"Broken? Then we should try and fix it with sticks and leaves and very, very special magic sand." The little boy beamed.
"I'm Flint,"
he said, and ran to gather some sticks. "I'm Tilly," grinned Tilly. "Let's fix all the broken bits." And so they worked and got the sand and got all sorts of things they could find. "It's working," beamed Tilly.
"Yes,"
giggled Flint.
"the friendship bench is getting better."
As you can see, it's this gorgeous. We don't have sand, and I suspect I'd be told off for spilling sand all over the carpet. But there's starfish and seashells and sticks and sand and flower petals and everything. So the friendship bench is indeed getting better. Thank you very much. After school, Mummy and Tilly walked home along the beach. The seagulls swung in the air. "Did you have a good day?" asked Mummy. "Yes, but the friendship bench was all broken, so we had to make it better," said Tilly. "What's a friendship bench?" asked Mummy. "It's a special bench that helps you make new friends. I've been trying to fix it with Flint." "Who's Flint?" asked Mummy. "Oh, just a little boy," said Tilly. "He's got a really hairy dog called Herbert, and he likes ice cream and beaches, and he wants to meet Shadow." "Flint sounds like a lovely new friend," smiled Mummy. "You two must have fixed the friendship bench well." "Oh, yes," giggled Tilly. "I think we really have." Thank you. And thank you, Paul, for that impromptu. The Friendship Bench by Wendy Medur. So you have a chance now to solidify your friendship here, to share your lives, your joys, as well as your sorrows, your trials, and your triumphs. If you wish to light a candle and say a few words, come to the microphone so those who are using the loop system will be able to hear you. If you are still listening online and you'd like to leave a message, we will read it out. You can light a candle in silence, of course. And as always, if you wish to remain seated, holding your life in your heart, know that your presence here is enough. Thank you. And I'd like to invite Joe to come forward with our first candle.
Thanks indeed. I'm Joe James. I'm the convener of the Executive Committee of our General Assembly of Unitarian and Free Christian Churches. And I'm so grateful to my friend Cody, who I'm proud to count as a friend as well as a colleague. I'm so grateful to Cody and to Cody's staff who've made myself and our team so welcome here. We're holding our Executive Committee meetings here at Cross Street. It's actually the last time that I will be convener of the EC in our formal meeting. So I want to also share my gratitude to the EC who are here. Zach Barker, Liz Slade, not a member of the EC, of course, but our Chief Officer, Sarah Benfield and Jenny Jacobs and John Bates are all with us today. And our deliberations are always thoughtful and engaged, as is right, that we represent as best we can the intentions of our shared movement. So I'm very grateful to enjoy this sense of hospitality and to bring ourselves, in the fullness of ourselves, to this point of worship and remind ourselves that here we are. What we do together has a focal point, and I love those words of Mary Oliver, but I also recognize that as well as the bright light of fire, we recognize that fire brings with it shadow, and so in light and in shadow we also meet. And so I'm very grateful to you, Cody. Thank you. And I light a candle here and bring greetings from the executive committee.
Good morning. First of all, can I say how nice it is to be back and not striding over theatrical egos that I've been doing for the last few weeks. It seems as I'm bringing death every time, but on Friday we laid to rest my friend Rosie, who's led a colourful life, shall we say, and a troubled life in some ways. And unfortunately, she had an accident at home and lay at the foot of the stairs for some 48 hours before we found her. Sadly, she died shortly afterwards at hospital. So I'm lighting my candle for my friend Rosie, who was one of life's wonderful characters. God bless her. Thank you.
This is a joint candle. Earlier this week, a member of the RNCM staff died. I'm not sure how, but I've worked with him quite a bit. Michael Harper, who was a vocal teacher, and he was a wonderful, kind, and caring person. There's one. I think the last time I played in a lesson for him, a student was crying, and he sent me out of the room and went to console her, and that left a huge impression on me. So he's going to be sorely missed. And on the other side of this week, yesterday, long story short, I took part in an inter-gym competition, where one gym, it was like the gym that I'm in versus another gym based in Warrington. And my team got second place, so I'm very chuffed about that.
I'd like to share a neighbourly space with Aaron, reading a poem that was printed in the last or recent issue of the Inquirer by the Reverend Cliff Rev'd, who I've known for many, many years. He was minister in Ipswich for a good length of time, and I've lost touch with him in recent times. It's called The Music Pulls Me Back. It's the music that pulls me back. Back to places where life happened. Back to days and nights of tenderness and joy. Back to good friends and sweet lovers. Back to coffee in stained mugs. Back to long evenings in hazy, smoke-filled rooms. Back to conversations meandering into the early hours. Back to clubs and dancing, pubs and singing. Back to sacred moments and the shared spirit. Back to the hope and the love. That was all a long time ago, but it blesses my memory, and it's the music that pulls me back.
Last week, I lost my stepson, Jonathan, from MS. He had a long fight with that, and we had his funeral. And also my dear old friend Martin, who'd lived to the ripe old age of 80-something. So at least I got the eulogies round the right way. They were very different characters, but I'd just like to remember them. And thank you, Peter, for your condolences.
I've lit this candle for my brother, Richard, and his wife, Helen. Helen died on Wednesday, and they were very devoted. They'd been married for over 40 years. They didn't have children. They lived for each other. And my poor brother is in pieces. So thanks for your good wishes.
So I light my candle. I lost my dad last month, and it's been a really difficult time, but it's just to remember my dad, to help keep me strong for my mum and my sisters, and to thank each and every one of you that have supported me through these last several weeks. It's really appreciated.
I light this candle for that a good event happened to me. My young sister, doctor, went missing in Middle East for 11 years. And just she contacted me 2 weeks ago, and she is fine, and she's in Lebanon. So I like to share with you and wish for her everything good. And I share with you your sad about what you said on the events. Thank you.
Just a candle of thanks for everyone who was at Salford's Beef Steak Chapel yesterday, and a candle of thanks for everyone here today, joining us for lunch, joining us for teas and coffees, and some sort of minor meeting afterwards.
For all those joys and sorrows here spoken, and those that remain silently in our hearts. We come now to our second hymn, The Dove Will Fly on Mended Wing. Now this is one that's not in our hymn book, so it might be new words for many people, but the tune is well known. The Dove Will Fly on Mended Wing.
Thank you. Our reading today comes from the book Holy Anarchy by Graham Adams. For those unfamiliar, Graham Adams is a tutor at Luther King Center in Mission Studies, World Christianity, and Religious Diversity. And many of our students have had some part of their training done at Luther King Center, Luther King House as it was previously known, in one way or another. So it sort of feels like a slightly kindred connection. The term Holy Anarchy, and I'll speak a little bit more about this in the sermon, is a term I think coined or used by another theologian, Andrew Shanks, that Graham Adams bases this upon. And it's this alternative to the often used term, the kingdom of God. Now, we don't use that term here that often for what feels like sort of obvious reasons. It's something quite difficult, I find, as a metaphor for us to engage with. So I was really overjoyed to encounter this alternative expression that I feel more boldly encompasses a vision for a sort of world that we might endeavor to build. In this specific excerpt, Graham Adams is approaching something else that we might encounter very often in our faith, which is people who talk about being spiritual but not religious. And this is a response that he has to that. It is understandable that people should opt for something more fluid, more authentically contextual to their searching, their needs, their aspirations. Religion has been and continues to be corrupt in so many respects, and even encourages complicity with unjust and oppressive dynamics. By contrast, spiritual, not religious people seek the safety and relative innocence that is distinct from religion. This should tell us something, that integrity matters, that issues of power and its abuses matter, that spiritual freedom and creativity matter, that questing rather than constraining matters. And all of these point towards holy anarchy, rather than the more limiting, damaging, and corrupt notions of religion. However, holy anarchy expresses a degree of friction with the spiritual dimension that yearns for innocence, because holy anarchy does not envisage space free from corruption. The structures of oppression are so pervasive that we cannot avoid them, and there is something in trying to own this moral complexity. Religion that is faithful to this vision will therefore not be, or purport to be, innocent, but will enable the deepest possible self-criticism. This is not criticism of individuals in a judgmental way like religion has often exacted, but criticism of itself, its corporate life, to expose its oppressive legacies. Of course, in many ways, this is not attractive. It is challenging to envisage being part of a community that prioritizes critique of itself, wherever it lapses into bullying, exclusion, or self-regard. But it must not simply be seen to do this as an exercise in repairing the damage done to so many spiritual people. It must do this as an expression of its calling to witness to holy anarchy, which alerts us to the structures of domination within which we live and move and have our being. From Holy Anarchy by Graham Adams. Let us return now to a time of prayer. Eternal witness, who has been at our side, who has experienced the joys and pains, the comforts and tensions of humanity and all creation, be with us now as we bring to mind those who are in distress. Help us to remember companions who need our support, as well as the stranger who cries out for justice. Prove us with insight and strength for ourselves. Allow us to recognize the difficulties we face, the decisions we are called to make, and the values we choose to hold. In our bodies, may we be strong enough to accomplish our goals and better serve the world. In our minds, may we face the difficulties we encounter with a clear understanding. In our souls, may we feel the pull towards you. May your loving guidance direct us, and may it propel outwards from us into the world. For our communities, those we would call family, friends, and loved ones, we pray they will remain healthy and fulfilled. When illness is present, let their sufferings be lessened. When sadness arises, let the wind sweep away their gloom. When tensions cloud their relationships, may all be filled with compassion and understanding. For those we have not met, may they not be forgotten. If our choices in life affect them, may it be towards the good. May they journey through life feeling the warmth of community. May they feel able to engage in the world, and may their voices, health, and well-being be strengthened. May you also support our church. As it searches for truth and goodness, may its voice promote a message of love and compassion, available for all. May this message be heard in our city and beyond. May care and aid reach those who have been hurt by natural disasters. May those who have suffered from floods and drought, from wildfires and mudslides, find care and solace. May the relationship between the earth and humanity be healed. Throughout the world, may all wars cease. May the oppressed break free from their shackles. We keep in mind the plight of those suffering in regions which have seldom known peace. May the victims of greed and hypocrisy be given dignity, while the world relearns values. O witness of times past, who will be with us forevermore, we ask you to witness the pains of the world, to do what is able and good. When we are called to action, may we act. In this way, may we too be a witness to truth, to beauty, to love for the rest of the world. Amen. Let us now enter into a period of silence for reflection, meditation, contemplation, and personal prayer. Thank you, Aaron. Let us now sing our next hymn, Sing a New World into Being, by Mary Louise Bringle. You will not be able to stay home. You will not be able to plug in, turn on, and cop out and skip out for beer during commercials, because the revolution will not be televised. Thus writes poet and musician Gil Scott Heron back in 1970. Scott Heron is speaking to black liberationists, those struggling to end racial oppression in the States. And he is specifically responding to a line from the song When the Revolution Comes by The Last Poet. When the revolution comes, some of us will probably catch it on TV. No, Gil Scott Heron insists we will not catch it on TV because the revolution will not be televised. A core part of Gil's response, and probably the biggest legacy that comes from the poem, is that the fight against oppression will not happen if everyone is sitting idly by. You can't watch television and be in the fight at the same time. He highlights this by incorporating common commercials and television tropes into this song. The revolution will not give your mouth sex appeal. The revolution will not get rid of the nubs. The revolution will not make you look 5 pounds thinner, because the revolution will not be televised. The song mocks both the expectations that we get from commercials. Will this product really cure bad breath? Does it go better with Coke? And as well as mocking our own complicity for watching them. It disavows all these product slogans with one notable exception. The revolution will put you in the driver's seat. Not a car, obviously, but of your life and your legacy. So that's the sort of core element that we sort of hear and remember from Gil Scott-Heron's poem. But there's another element within the song, which is that the revolution will not be televised because revolution will fundamentally alter television as well. The images of revolution in the streets will not appear on the news, not because they are not happening, but because of how news itself will be revolutionized. I note then that the revolution might not be televised nowadays, possibly because not many people actually watch television anymore. We've seen a decline in viewership, and Ofcom last year noted that more people get their main source of information from apps and websites than they do from the telly. So it might not be televised, but maybe the revolution will be on YouTube. That might sound glib, but the implications here are actually quite important. Social media was seen not too long ago as a great democratizing force. Who recalls the impact that Twitter had on the Arab Spring? With people being able to connect with one another based on their interests and based on sort of mutual struggles, without this filter of corporate media. In time, however, Facebook, YouTube, and others have come to represent these corporate interests. And we're no longer sharing material within a vacuum, but our words sit alongside disinformation, misinformation, prejudice, and bigotry. And we don't necessarily get to choose who sees what. We don't necessarily get to choose how our message gets out there. The same year that Scott Heron was penning his song, Alvin Toffler was writing Future Shock. Who's here, by any chance, who here knows or remembers or has even heard of Future Shock by any chance? It's a handful. Toffler was a futurologist who made a number of sort of stunning predictions back in 1970. He has people who really follow him. They really get into him. I was sort of amongst them for a little while and insist that everything he said has proved to be true. I don't think that's the case. Some of his predictions appear very foolish nowadays, but some of them are sort of quite phenomenal, very prescient, though I don't think his hit rate was as accurate as his admirers insist. Predictions aside, though, the book had a more fundamental truth to it, which I think he was trying to get at more important than any specific prediction. Toffler examines the social anxiety experienced in the 60s and created this word, future shock, as somewhat of a diagnosis. Progress, particularly technological progress, was creating a society whose culture was always shifting. So our childhood was foundationally different to our parents' childhood. And even within a few years, the world would feel radically different. And this would be destabilizing for people. It would be so difficult to navigate society, not only not being sure sort of how the world worked, but realizing that everyone else didn't realize how the world worked either, and not being able to just simply turn the clock back and go back in time. His book explains in one way why people were so resistant to change, as the world of tomorrow was increasingly unlike the world of yesterday. It's not just change, which we know is inevitable, but it was this actually accelerated change. But as we're talking about social media, I do want to throw in this little paragraph from Future Shock, which I want to remind you was written in 1970. In the mid-60s, Joseph Naughton, a mathematician and computer specialist, suggested a system that would store a consumer's profile, data about their occupation and interests, in a central computer. Machines would then scan newspapers, magazines, videotapes, films, and other material, match them with the individual's interest profile, and instantaneously notify them when something appears that concerns them. The system could be hitched to a facsimile machine and TV transmitters that could actually display or print out the material in their own living room. 1970. I mean, he mentions fax machines, so I don't think you can say that he was really accurate. But if you ever needed sort of a description, I suppose, of Facebook nowadays, of something that scans the world, and pulls up material that is purportedly to be of our interest and feeds it to us without our sort of capacity to change things or to search for ourselves, that feels like it. If I seem preoccupied with social media today, particularly Facebook and YouTube, it is because they are two of the websites that we regularly use here at Chapel. We're broadcasting, I believe still, to YouTube right now. We play the game and are therefore complicit in some way. We may argue that the benefits outweigh the cost, but does our use of social media bolster these values that are antithetical to our own? Are we not witnessing revolution because our actions are actively subverting it? And this is part of what Graham Adams is telling us. Holy anarchy recognizes that systemic injustice exists and that we're called to challenge it. We can't sit idly by, like those that he describes as seeking innocence, made by those who decry religion, for instance. Issues such as historic injustices and present abuses mar religious institutions. And it may feel easy to walk away from it all, to wash our hands of it, as the great expression goes. But as Adams writes, holy anarchy does not envisage space free from corruption. The structures of oppression are so pervasive that we cannot avoid them. So we must witness them, challenge them, and seek to amend and grow better from them. Graham Adams his reading further explores this by linking holy anarchy to a commitment by pulling down unjust systems. This is why that reference to anarchy is so important and revolutionary. Empire is not being torn down simply to be replaced by a kingdom. Racism is not being battled simply to be replaced by some more subtle form of prejudice. Shanks and Adams push hard into the notion that this is not simply repairing a past ledger. We must do this as an expression of our calling. How might we understand both our responsibility here, as well as what holy anarchy might look like? I think it's illustrated with our children's story. Tilly and Flint think the friendship bench is just supposed to give them a friend. They receive it without input or effort on their own. But relationships require work and contribution. Not necessarily as onerous as that just made it sound. They can be fun and joyful, but we cannot sit idly by and expect them to continue without our presence. It's in the process of playing with the friendship bench that the friendship is formed. And it is in our relationships that we will find our revolution, the authentic connection, the creative play, the valuing of human life rather than money, the insistence of rights for all people and creation, despite their perceived inconvenience in modern society. This is the revolution we're called to each day, each morning, each interaction we have. It will be scary. It will be fun. It will include failure and setbacks. It will be joyful. Or, to conclude with the words of Gil Scott-Heron, the revolution will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised. The revolution will not be no rerun. The revolution will be live. Amen. A few notices before we sing our final hymn. We do have a meal, so please do join us for that afterwards, and our annual general meeting. Our Friday recital is the 28th, featuring at 1 p.m., featuring Larina Shablevich-Yute, a fantastic pianist that we've had many times before. Our recitals are free, but we are grateful for contributions which go to the artists to recognize their time, talent, and energy. And also, finally, there's also time still to sign up for our visit to the Gaskell House. That's Saturday, the 5th of April at 2:30. Tickets for that are £15. It includes a tour and tea and a scone afterwards. like I say, there's still time to sign up, but the final date is closing quick for that. And if you are interested but a bit concerned about your finances, please let us know. The committee does have funds set aside to assist anyone who might wish to attend but otherwise feel incapable. So I'll leave the notices there because I want us to get to the food. So let us then sing our final hymn. Oh, actually, that sounds very quick. I need to explain firstly. We sang this hymn about a year and a half ago, so you should know the tune. No, don't worry. Aaron and I are going to sort of work through it with you. Again, it's one that's not often in our hymn book, Building a New Way. So could you just play the melody, and then we'll break it down from there. Now the B flat. So I'll sing a section and then you can sing it back to me. So, we are building a new way. Ready? Your turn. We are building a new way. Very good. Can I have that F then? We are building a new way. We are building a new way. Very good. We are building a new way. We are building a new way. Feeling stronger every day. Feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are building a new way. Very good. How are we feeling about that? Do we want to run through? Great. So if you'll play through it once more, and then we'll kick into gear.
Thank you. Thank you, Aaron, for that fantastic music. Thank you, Sonia, for all of these beautiful flowers and for helping to set up, and Joe as well for all the preparation work you've done yesterday and today. Thank you to everyone who has brought food and contributions, and thank you for everyone who's going to stick around and eat some of that too. And thank you, Naomi, for overseeing the IT. Thank you, and Paul for the improv. Fantastic. Thank you to everyone for creating and sharing worship today. We close with these words of Malala Yousafzai. Believe in yourself, believe in your voice, believe in the dedication and determination that you hold for the things that you believe in. You can make it happen.